Welcome to Revenge with Lyra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Grant. I'm 29. Mom's voice still echoes in my head from that Thanksgiving evening. The clinking of silverware, the smell of roasted turkey, and that single humiliating moment that split the room in two. She stood at the head of the table with her usual dramatics, holding a stack of gold envelopes like a queen handing out blessings. A small reward for everyone who helps around here, she announced with a smile sharp enough to cut. My brother got one first, then my sister, then my brother's wife, even the niece who'd spent the whole week glued to her phone. And then silence. Mom's hand hovered, then withdrew the last envelope. "Oh, right," she said casually. "You've been so busy with work lately, honey. You barely do anything around here." Laughter. Low, cruel, knowing. My sister leaned back in her chair, smirking. "Guess you don't count this year," she teased. The words landed harder than I expected, like a slap made of sugar. I just smiled, took a slow sip of my wine, and said nothing. The moment stretched. Forks clinked. Dad cleared his throat, ready to move on, as if humiliation could be served with cranberry sauce. I looked around that table, every single one of them living on the accounts I funded. The mortgages I refinanced, the tuition I covered, the emergency credit cards I topped up every month. So I kept smiling. I didn't raise my voice, didn't throw the wine. I just said, "You're right, Mom. I don't count." And that night, after dessert, while they all fell asleep in my guest rooms, full and oblivious, I sat down at my laptop, logged into every shared account, and began my quiet little audit of gratitude. By 2 a.m., the house was still buzzing faintly with post-dinner snores. The TV in the living room hummed on low, replaying a football game no one was watching. I sat there in my robe, coffee gone cold, my fingers steady on the keyboard. Every account name glowed back at me like a confession. Mom's utilities, Dad's emergency, the shared grocery card, my sister's business startup fund that somehow always funded her spa trips. I opened the banking dashboard, 23 automatic transfers. Everyone set up by me. Delete, delete, pause, close. The sound of clicking keys was almost musical, like scissors cutting an invisible cord that had kept me tied to their approval. At 2:47 a.m., the final confirmation email arrived. All linked accounts disabled. I leaned back, silence filling the kitchen in a way that felt earned. Then I sent one last message to our family group chat. "Happy Thanksgiving. I finally understand what being thankful for myself means." And I turned the phone face down. When I woke up to sunlight filtering through the blinds, the house was no longer silent. It was chaos. "Alyssa," my mother's voice cracked from downstairs. "The cards aren't working. I can't even pay for the breakfast order." I walked downstairs slowly, the smell of burnt toast greeting me before her fury did. Dad was on the phone with the bank. My sister was pale, scrolling through her phone like the numbers on the screen might change if she refreshed hard enough. "What did you do?" Mom demanded. I poured myself a glass of orange juice calm. "You said I don't help around here," I said, meeting her eyes. So I stopped. Her face drained of color, because she knew, this time, it wasn't rebellion. It was freedom. The silence after that was sharp enough to taste. Mom's lips trembled, torn between outrage and disbelief. Dad set his phone down, the call to the bank on hold, eyes darting toward me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You can't just," he started. "I can," I interrupted softly, "because every single one of those accounts is under my name. I created them to help you, not to be used as your personal slush fund." My sister finally spoke, voice dripping with that fake confidence she used to weaponize. "This is insane, Alyssa. What kind of person does this to their family? The kind who learned that family doesn't mean financing everyone else's comfort while being mocked at dinner," I replied. Her husband appeared from the hallway, whispering something about declined payments and blocked cards. Their panic filled the air like static. Mom looked desperate now. "But sweetheart, it's just money." I smiled faintly. "Then you won't miss it." Dad pushed back from the table. "You're acting childish." "No," I said quietly. I'm acting equal. It was the first time I'd said that in this house, and the weight of it shifted something in the room. My sister lunged for her phone, muttering about transferring balances, only to gasp, "It's all frozen." She locked everything. I nodded. That's right. Because this family doesn't run on guilt anymore. They didn't know it yet, but that was only part one of my plan. I'd spent years keeping records, receipts, messages, transfers. Proof of every dollar borrowed, every promise made and broken. As they stood there panicking over breakfast bills, I was already one step ahead. The Thanksgiving games were over. And for once, I was keeping score. The next morning, my inbox exploded. 37 unread messages, all variations of panic. Bank says our accounts are frozen. How do you expect us to live? You went too far, Alyssa. By noon, even my boss had texted, "Your family's calling the office. Everything okay?" I laughed, quietly, bitterly. They never called when I was hospitalized from exhaustion, I thought, but the minute their brunch money disappears, they remember my number. Still, a part of me ached, that old reflex that whispered fix it. But this time I didn't. Instead, I opened my files and attached a single PDF to an email addressed to Mom, Dad, and my sister. Subject, for clarity. Attached, Family Expense Record, 2019 to 2024. Every dollar, every receipt, every loan. 5 years of silent support laid out in neat, undeniable columns. Within minutes, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Dad. "You kept records?" "Of course," I typed back. "You taught me accountability." Then came the knock at my door. My sister stood there, eyes swollen, the arrogance from yesterday washed away. "You embarrassed us," she said softly. "No," I corrected, stepping aside so she could see the wall of unopened thank you cards from the Scholarship Foundation I funded last year. "You embarrassed yourselves. I just stopped paying for it." She looked at the cards, confusion giving way to something like shame, the first genuine emotion I'd seen in years. "Mom's scared," she whispered. "She should be," I said calmly. "Fear's what it takes to recognize boundaries sometimes." And then I closed the door, not angrily, but firmly. Downstairs, I heard her car pull away. For once, no guilt followed. Just peace, and the faint hum of freedom echoing through my quiet apartment. By Saturday, the story had made its way through every cousin, aunt, and family friend within a 100-mile radius. The ungrateful daughter, narrative spread faster than wildfire. My mom's favorite sport was reputation rescue. But this time, no one seemed to be buying it. See, what they didn't know was that I'd quietly sent a donation to the local shelter in my parents' name the same morning I froze their accounts. The shelter's public thank you post, complete with photos and cheerful captions, went viral across our small town page. Huge thanks to the Grant family for funding winter housing for struggling single mothers. The irony wasn't lost on me. For once, our family name was tied to real kindness, not manipulation disguised as generosity. When Mom called that evening, her voice was trembling. "Alyssa, people think we did that." "You're welcome," I said simply. "You can't just." "I can," I interrupted, calm as ever. And I did. There was a long pause, then the faint, wounded sniff I'd fallen for all my life. "But not anymore." "Mom," I said softly, "I spent years making sure everyone else ate before I did. You skipped me at dinner because you thought that control made you powerful. But you forgot. I'm the one who learned how to build." She said nothing. "I don't need your approval anymore," I continued. "I just need my peace." The line went dead. And for the first time, the silence that followed didn't ache. It healed. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching the winter lights flicker through the city skyline, my laptop open to the Scholarship Fund portal, a new round of applications waiting for review. I smiled. The cycle was broken. Sunday morning came quietly, no chaos, no calls. Just sunlight sliding across the floorboards and the smell of cinnamon coffee. I opened my email to find a single message from my father. No greeting, no apology, Just one line. You've proven your point. What do you want from us? I stared at it for a long moment, realizing he still didn't understand. This wasn't about leverage. It was about liberation. So I replied, nothing. That's the point. I hit send, shut my laptop, and exhaled. At noon, my phone buzzed again, but this time from someone who did matter. Naomi, my mentor at the foundation, texted, your proposal for the Independence Grant got approved. You'll be the keynote speaker at the Women in Finance Summit next month. My throat tightened. Years of giving, bending, breaking, and now, recognition not tied to obligation. When I stepped outside to clear my head, the cold air hit my skin like truth. Across the street, my sister stood by her car, hesitant. She waved weakly. I almost ignored her, but something in her eyes stopped me. She crossed the road, shivering. They're losing it, Alyssa. Mom keeps calling people. Dad's furious. I just wanted to say I get it now. I raised an eyebrow. Get what? That you are the only adult in this family. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but out of peace. Some apologies aren't verbal, they're simply visible. She looked down. They want you to come by tomorrow. Talk things out. I smiled faintly. They've had 30 years to listen. I'll pass. As she drove off, I whispered to myself, some bridges don't need rebuilding. Some need to burn bright enough to light your new path. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, legs tucked under me, city lights flickering below like old memories fading out. I wasn't celebrating their downfall, just the silence, the absence of guilt, the vanishing weight. Then a call came in from Uncle Daryl, the executor of Grandma Jean's estate. Hey, kiddo. I've got something that belongs to you, he said. I frowned. What do you mean? He chuckled. Your grandmother left a second trust, hidden from the rest of them. She knew how they treated you. Said if they ever pushed you out, this would push you forward. I nearly dropped the glass. It wasn't about the money, it was about the knowing. That someone in that tangled family web had seen me. The trust was worth $1.2 million. Set aside for education, business ventures, or a home anywhere I wanted. I already have a home, I said. Daryl paused. Then maybe it's time you give others what you never got. And that's when it hit me. By morning, I made calls, met with a lawyer, drafted a plan. My new nonprofit, Unwritten Daughters, would launch by spring. Scholarships for women cut off by their families. Emergency housing for girls escaping financial abuse. I wouldn't fight them anymore. I'd eclipse them. Later that week, I bumped into my father at the bank. A coincidence, or fate testing my peace. He avoided my eyes but still said, "You're welcome for everything we gave." I looked at him, calm as ever. You gave me the most important thing, a map of what not to become. And as I walked past him, a strange lightness came over me. Not revenge, not pride, just release. The day the foundation launched, I stood on stage under a soft wash of morning light. Behind me, the new banner read, Unwritten Daughters, Empowerment Without Permission. Rows of young women filled the auditorium, students, single mothers, survivors of silence. The kind of people I once was. I took the microphone, my voice steady. For years, I began. I mistook endurance for love. I believed that giving endlessly meant belonging. But love isn't earned through sacrifice, it's proven through respect. The audience leaned in. Today, we're rewriting that story. You don't have to prove you deserve a seat at the table. You can build your own. Applause rippled through the hall, bright and alive. And in that sound, I heard something I'd never heard before, acceptance that didn't demand pain first. Afterward, a girl named Mariah approached me, tears streaking her cheeks. My mom kicked me out when I refused to quit school, she whispered. Your story, it made me believe I can still make it. I smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. You already are. Outside, cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions. I caught a glimpse of my family standing across the street, my parents, small and uncertain, my sister half hidden behind them. For the first time, I didn't flinch. I didn't ache. I didn't hope. I simply waved, not with anger, not with forgiveness, but with finality. Later that night, I sat by the window, watching the city lights shimmer like tiny acts of courage. Ethan poured 2 glasses of wine and joined me. "You did it," he said quietly. "No," I replied. "We did it. Every woman who's ever been told she was too much, too small, too inconvenient. We did this together." He smiled. "Feels like the end of something." I looked out the window and whispered, "No, this is the beginning." And in that soft silence, where guilt used to live, peace finally moved in.